So Saudi Arabia has been trending in the sport of boxing and in all sports, if we're being honest, throughout the last, I'd say so, around the year. And honestly, after taking a bit of a deep investigation, after taking a bit of a dive into what they've been doing, I've come to the conclusion that Saudi Arabia is actually doing a lot of good for the sport of boxing, and you can make a strong case or even saving the sport. Now, when you look at the sport of boxing, when you look at the big fights that we've actually been getting a lot more big fights as of late than we've been getting in the last couple of years, and it's actually a really good thing. Boxing has finally picked itself back up. They're finally doing what they've set out to do, and they are giving the fans a lot of the fights that we want to see. However, there are still a lot of fights that don't seem like they're going to get made, a lot of fights that don't seem very realistic in the next couple of years, and when you look at Saudi Arabia and you look at what they've done since they've joined the boxing scene, it really seems like they have a strong chance, a strong capability of truly helping the sport and truly giving us a lot of these fights. Now, when you look at what they did this year, they made probably the best card when it comes to how well-rounded it was throughout the entire year, and that was the final card of the year that everyone watched, which was with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder as the co-main event. Now, I will say this, I do feel they made a big mistake by not just matching them up against each other. I felt that would have been great for the fans. It would have been much more intriguing and much more hyped up than what it ended up being. I felt that they over-marinated that fight, and I do think that was a mistake. However, they gave us a really good card, and they were going to give us Wilder and Joshua fighting if they both got the victories, if they both got the jobs done. However, 2024 looks like the first year where they're really going to go all in and really give us a lot of great fights. It seems that, well, it's 100% confirmed that Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk are fighting each other. And we have to really thank Saudi Arabia and the money that they're putting in for that fight, because that's a fight that should have happened years ago and wasn't getting done. Then Saudi Arabia came on the scene and they got it made. So I'm thanking them for giving us Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury. It seems that they're going to give us Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. It seems that they're trying to make Tank Davis fight a nice high-level opponent as well. And what I give Saudi Arabia a lot of credit for is a lot of these fighters are very greedy. They don't want to take on the best opponents. Saudi Arabia is saying straight up, we will give you the money. We will pay you even more than what you want. We'll give you life-changing money. However, you have to take on top guys. You cannot take on tune-ups or fringe contenders or guys nowhere near your level and expect us to pay you. We will pay you what you want and what you're asking, probably even more than what you want and what you're asking, but you have to do what we ask, and that's taking on the best possible competition in the area. And I feel that that's truly respectable and truly admirable. They're actually going to really give us a lot of the fights that we want to see, and I truly commend them for doing so. A lot of people have an issue with Saudi Arabia being involved in the sport of boxing. However, I feel that they've done more good than harm easily when you look at the fights that they've given us and the fights that they seem that they will be giving us in the future. I think the first time Saudi Arabia really broke onto the boxing scene was Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz too, and they started really well because that was a really fun card, and it was a card I was looking forward to. The main event was a fight that we all wanted to see. After the first fight, everyone wanted to see the rematch. They couldn't agree on the location for the fight. Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn wanted the fight in Cardiff, which it should have been because that was in the contract. However, Andy Ruiz was objecting to it, and he honestly wanted the fight in either Mexico or Texas. So they were going to come to a compromise and possibly have the fight back in Madison Square Garden once again. However, Saudi Arabia came in and gave them life-changing money and made them fight in Saudi Arabia. It was a good card. Michael Hunter versus Alexander Povetkin was on the undercard as well. Filip Hrgović was on the undercard. It was a nice little card, and it seems that Saudi Arabia wants to give us many more big cards, many more big events. I could easily see them giving us Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney. I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense, especially in Saudi Arabia, especially due to the fact that they're both Muslim. It makes sense for them to both fight each other in Saudi Arabia because they're not going to want to fight each other in America and make a lot less. They could fight each other in Saudi Arabia, and who knows, maybe they can make $40, $50, $60 million, something in that range. They can make life-changing money, and the only way they're going to get that life-changing money in Saudi Arabia is if they fight top opponents. They're not going to give these fighters these huge opportunities to fight no one. If you look at what the top people in Saudi Arabia are saying, when you look at the people in power over there in the boxing scene, in the boxing industry, the people calling the shots, they have said many times, and I apologize if I mispronounce his name, hold on, I don't want to mispronounce his name. Give me one moment. His name's I want to get it right. Turki Al-Sheikh. I apologize if I mispronounced it. He's been basically the main spokesperson for Saudi Arabian sports as of late. I believe he holds a lot of political power in the boxing industry, especially with Saudi Arabia. He has said in interviews the fights that he wants to get done. The fights that he wants to get done. He wants to get Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev fighting, which is a great fight that still hasn't happened. Maybe the best fight left in the sport that hasn't been made. He said he wants to bring Tank Davis. He wants to bring Canelo. He wants to bring all these great fights. But he has said before that he is a boxing fan. He is not just someone who wants to make money from the sport. He has money. They all have money over there. He wants the fights to be made. He enjoys the sport of boxing and he wants to see these fights. He seems to have a true passion for the sport, and by having that true passion for the sport and the money to make these fights, it just makes sense for someone like him to want these fighters to get paid lots of money but to fight each other. Tank Davis is not going to make life-changing money in Saudi Arabia taking on Hugo Ruiz. He's going to make life-changing money in Saudi Arabia taking on Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez or Vasyl Lomachenko. So I think they've done a lot of good stuff for the sport of boxing. I think 2024 is going to probably be a much bigger year for Saudi Arabia in the boxing industry. They have chosen boxing over UFC from what I've seen. I'm not saying they're not going to get involved in UFC or MMA in some form, some capacity, but I do feel that boxing is where they're really going to make a push. I think boxing has a lot of potential to really grow as a sport in 2024. I mean, I do feel, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but in the last 6 years or so, boxing has had a little bit of a pendulum shift. It's gotten a lot bigger as of late. I mean, I understand pay-per-view buys and etc. That's because it's very easy to watch pay-per-views without having to pay for the event. But when it comes to people's interest in the sport of boxing, it's gone up a lot as of late due to the fact that these big fights are being made. The hardcore boxing fans are getting back into the sport. Like, there's more casual fans joining the scene. I feel boxing really has a lot of potential in 2024, and I do think Saudi Arabia is going to play a part in that as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see what they can do. What I hope from Saudi Arabia, if I can ask them, personally for myself, I want to see them make Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol like they said. Also, they made Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, which is a nice little fight. I think that's going to actually be a very fun fight. I want them to make the two Usyk Fury fights. The first one's already made. I want the rematch to happen. And I want Anthony Joshua, assuming he beats assuming he beats Francis Ngannou, to either take on the winner of Zhilei Zhang and Joseph Parker, or to take on Filip Hrgović. Specifically Zhilei Zhang, because he's really earned it with what he's done, beating Joe Joyce twice and possibly Joseph Parker. Or Joseph Parker by beating Deontay Wilder and Zhilei Zhang. I want them to make that happen. I want them to get involved with Terence Crawford and maybe find a way to get a Terence Crawford-Tim Tszyu fight. I think that would make a lot of sense, and I think they're definitely capable of doing that. There's a lot of other matchups I want to see them work on. I want them to make a big push into Gervonta Davis. I think they need to highly invest in Tank and highly invest in Devin Haney and hopefully make a Tank and Devin Haney type of fight. Worst comes to worst, maybe they can make a similar event that they did with Joshua and Wilder, where they can have Tank headlining and Devin co-main event, and when they win both of their fights, assuming they both get the job done, which I bet they would, have them take on each other in a mega fight in Saudi Arabia. I would love to see them do that. I think that would make a lot of sense. I feel there's a lot of big things they can do. I think the main thing they need to worry right now is just to get these big fights, get that Beterbiev-Bivol fight done, make sure everything goes smoothly with Tyson Fury and his fight against Alexander Usyk. And I think they have a lot of potential in 2024. So you guys tell me in the comment section below. What do you think about Saudi Arabia joining boxing? What do you want to see them do? Do you think they're good for the sport? I think they're doing a really good job so far, and I hope they continue making these fights, because that's really what matters to me. You know, a lot of people are going to complain about Saudi Arabia for one reason or another, but they are making the fights, and if they keep doing so, let them keep making these big fights. Maybe they'll pay the fighters more than many feel they deserve, but at least they're getting the fights done. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. God bless. I'll see you guys later. Peace.